Once again,
Sir, please start.
Yes, sir, I'm starting. Once again, I welcome you all on behalf of RGPV TechCube 3, and I would like to welcome our TechCube coordinator, Sir Professor S.C. Chaube, our guest of honor, Director SGS ITS Indore, and our expert for today's session, Dr. Ashish Mathur, and all the participants for joining us today for this session. And now I would like to invite Dr. S.C. Chaube, sir, our coordinator, TechCube 3, to share his views, and we will continue the session then. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Puspa. First, I welcome Dr. Rakesh Saxena, Director, SGS ITS Indore, Faculty of RGPV and RGPV.
Maybe sir is having some technical issues. We'll wait for 2 minutes so that sir will rejoin us.
All participants from different institutions, and the most important, the speaker of the day, Dr. Ashish Mathur, is a faculty of IIT Jodhpur, and he will be talking on optical wireless communication. This topic has been selected based on the recent trends in the communication.
Sir is disconnected once again. We'll wait.
शोभा जी का साउंड ठीक करिए.
Yes, sir. I'll inform, sir.
There is just some connectivity issues,
yes,
because of some cloudy climate. Okay. Yeah. So this topic, which is optical wireless communication, has been chosen for delivery for talk by Dr. Ashish Mathur. It is very much relevant for the day where electronics and communications research scholar, faculty members, they are looking for a new dimension in their knowledge, a new areas of their research work. Every time, even in Odyssey, our students are asking for a new topic, new title, and new contents who can provide them an employment and very much relevant for higher studies. RGPV TechCube has been conducting many programs in different areas, whether it is employability skill or startups or R&D, and more than 300 events have been organized either by UIT, RGPV, or affiliated institutions under TechCube 3 during lockdown. And students have taken a lot of interest, and even today, this is the 4th program which I have joined. I'm joining, and hope this talk will also be very, very beneficial to all who will be attending here. And if I find the demand of the research scholars, I would like to request Dr. Mathur to continue to spare his time in the coming days, which will be beneficial to RGPV. I am thankful to Honorable Vice Chancellor for giving this opportunity to organize a number of programs under TechCube 3. I am really very much thankful to Dr. Saxena for sparing to be here on my request, and his guidance time to time we are getting from him. I'm really thankful to Dr. Mathur, who is here and will be talking to us. And I also request him that his support will continue. And once again, I thanks to all faculty members of UIT, RGPV, affiliated institutions and students for sharing this platform for knowledge. Thank you very much. Over to you, Puspa.
Thanks, sir. We are pleased to have such a mentor like you with us all the times, and in this pandemic era, your guidance is of much importance. Now, I would like to invite our today's expert for the session to provide us acknowledgement of the session. Over to you, Ashish sir.
भैया क्या कहते हैं हम आपने तो
Mathur sir.
First of all, I would like to sincerely thank Professor Chaube for providing me this opportunity to deliver a lecture on optical wireless communication. And I'm very much thankful, and I welcome Professor Rakesh Saxena and Vice Chancellor sir and all the faculty members to this online webinar. And I can see a number of students also who have joined this webinar. Thanks for joining and sparing your time to all the faculty colleagues, Professor Rakesh Saxena, Professor Chaube, and all the students. And such platforms are really very interesting as well as very knowledge enhancement platforms because these provide opportunities even for the faculty members as well as young minds in the form of our students to actually get enlightened by the different areas of research and contemporary fields on which the entire world and the researchers are working on. So I would again like to thank TQIP for providing this opportunity for me to speak on this occasion. Thank you. Thank you.
Pushpa, can I say one line only? Sorry for interruption. Hello. Hello. Dr. Chaube?
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. My mic is muted at that time. Sorry,
just-
sir. I'm just inviting you after Mathur, sir, because everyone can give thanks for coming and joining this session for today.
Yes, I want to say just one line.
Yes,
only.
sir.
You can
Yes,
start
sir.
Professor.
Yes, sir.
So
I
thank you,
just
Pushpa. Thank you, Pushpa. Thank you, Dr. Chaube, for inviting me here. And all participants, those who are joining as faculty members, congratulations to them. And thank you, Speaker, Mr. Mathur, for this session. Just I want to tell that presently the God is giving everything to humans wirelessly. He is giving everything wireless. So the future of our world will again be wireless. And presently in electrical engineering and civil engineering, in all engineering, we are going for a SCADA, supervisory control and data acquisition system. There we are using all wireless system or wireless data transmission. In industries also nowadays, they are converting their all present systems into IoT based wireless system. So even if in any branch of engineering, this topic is very useful and very important for them. I thank TQIP and Chaubeji for organizing this lecture, and I congratulate all participants, and I request is take keen interest and go for more lecture on wireless communication because it will be future of our world. Thank you very much. Thank you.
thank you, sir, for enlightening us, and we will continue the session from this side. I would like to invite Mathur sir so that the session will be continued.
Thank you, Pushpaji.
Yes.
So I'll share my screen for the presentation.
Okay, sir. Sir, I'll make you co-host.
Okay. I hope my screen is visible to you.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Right. So, good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Ashish Mathur from the Department of Electrical Engineering, IIT Jodhpur. And broadly, I would be talking about optical wireless communication. And specifically, I would be going into the motivation behind the relevance of using optical wireless communication for 5G communication technology. So that would be my prime focus of the talk today. This is a brief outline of my talk. So first of all, we'll briefly overview the evolution of mobile communication standards that we have been seeing so far. Then I'll give you a brief idea about the key features of 5G technology. Then we'll discuss the motivation behind using optical wireless communication for 5G networks. After that, I'll give a brief overview about what exactly is this optical wireless communication. And then, as a special case of optical wireless communication, we'll discuss something about free space optical communication. What are its motivations, applications, the transmitter and receiver designs for FSO communications, and some brief insights into how to statistically model the FSO channels. So, we are all aware that we are currently in the 4th generation of wireless communication standards. So typically, these wireless communication standards date back to 1980s when we had the first generation of mobile communication standard, which was called 1G. It was totally analog in nature, and the prime focus was to provide voice services to its users. This happened in 1980s around. Then came the second generation of mobile wireless communication standards, and for the first time, it was completely digital in nature. And the most primary standard in this 2G wireless communication was the GSM standard, Global System for Mobile Communications. And it offered data rates of up to few kbps. And the prime applications were to provide voice services to its users and also some low data rate services. Then in the 2000s, we entered into the third generation of mobile communication, which was called 3G. And multiple access techniques came into picture in this 3G wireless standard. So typically CDMA, FDMA, TDMA. And the data rates were of the order of from few hundred kbps to few mbps of data, typically up to 25 to 30 mbps. And a unique feature was introduced in this particular third generation of wireless communication standards over and above the 2G standard, which was the feature of video calling and video conferencing. And as you know that currently we are now in the 4th generation or 4G of wireless communication standards. And typically the data rates that are offered now are up from 100 mbps to up to gbps of data. And so the prime communication technology that is used in this 4G wireless communications is the orthogonal frequency division multiplexing. And in 4G, we are able to have multiple antennas at the transmitters and multiple antennas at the receiver side. So we are into the MIMO kind of communication technology. And of course, the typical applications that we are focusing on here is video conferencing, online gaming, HDTV. And we can see that the quality of the video has improved significantly in 4G. So our video call that is going on here is on this 4G standard itself. Now, with this kind of an overview of different mobile communication standards till today, let us now move on to certain key features of the next generation of wireless communication, which is 5th generation or 5G. So this 5G is still in the nascent stages because a lot of research work is going on now, and the standards for 5G are still under construction. And the rollout of 5G was typically planned for 2020, but of course, due to the pandemic and all, it has been postponed a little bit. So what are the key features of this 5G communication standards? So here we are focusing more on what quality of service can be provided to the user. So typically, I guess there is some disturbance from somewhere. I would request kindly mute your mics, please. Yeah. So typically what we are focusing on in 5G is enhanced mobile broadband services. So by enhanced mobile broadband services, I mean that wireless communications that could provide data rates of several Gbps. Very high data rates are targeted in 5G communication networks. And then these 5G communication networks are supposed to be ultra reliable. So typically they are tending to offer very high capacity data and also in a very reliable way, in a very secure way. Now the third feature is low latency communication. Now this term latency refers to the amount of time that is taken by an electromagnetic wave or a communication signal to reach the receiver from the transmitter. So till the previous generations of communication standards up till 4G, this particular feature of latency was not that much required in the applications. So the latencies that were targeted till 4G were of the order of 25 to 30 milliseconds, which was typically high. But in 5G, there are several applications where it is required to have the latency to very low values. Typically, we are targeting latencies of the order of 1 millisecond in 5G communication networks. And the prime application for this low latency application is your telesurgery. Now, this telesurgery is highly useful and very much applicable in the current scenario of a pandemic such as COVID-19 that we are facing these days. So typically there could be an emergency life and death situation and the doctors may not be readily available to operate. So even by having even if the doctor is available at a remote location, then by means of this telesurgery, he could perform an operation on the particular patient. So in such life and death situations, of course, we require very low latency, and that is one of the prime applications of 5G as well. Further, in 5G, we are focusing on massive machine type communications. So machine type communications would mean that one device can communicate directly with another device without the intervention of a base station. So as we know that whenever we are routing, whenever we are calling, when a user is calling on his mobile to another user, then all these calls are directed through a base station. So this was typically happening till the 4th generation of wireless communications. In 5G, what we are focusing on is there are a number of devices connected within a network. And from macro cells, we are moving to micro cells and even to the pico cells in 5G. So these pico cells will have ultra dense concentration of devices. That is, there would be multiple devices connected to the network. And of course, if these multiple devices are communicating with each other, then definitely we need to have low latencies. And if all these calls are routed through a base station, then definitely the requirement of latency would be high. So in 5G, we are targeting towards massive machine type of communications. That is, two devices would be able to communicate with each other without the intervention of a base station. So this is typically happening in what is called as Internet of Things as well, wherein multiple devices would be communicating wirelessly with each other. So this also helps us in ensuring power efficiency. So once these key features of 5G wireless communications are known, then let us try to find out why the traditional RF communication technologies have certain limitations, specifically in context of 5G communications. So as I mentioned that in 5G, there would be ultra dense network in a picocell and there would be lot of devices communicating with each other. So definitely there is a huge amount of exchange of data. So of course, in the past few years, there has been a rapid increase in the usage of internet. Also, there is a need for high-speed access to video as well as data. So definitely there is a scarcity of spectrum as far as the conventional RF technologies are concerned. And there is limited bandwidth available. Then we know that whenever in RF, we are typically broadcasting the data, right? So definitely if we are broadcasting the data from the transmitter to the receiver, there won't be a single line of sight path. There would be multiple paths available. For example, if I have transmitted certain data from the transmitter, then it might get reflected from the nearby object such as different buildings, automobiles, trees, mountains, and then it would reach the receiver. So definitely there would be multiple paths of the signal transmitted from the transmitter reaching the receiver, and that too at different instants of time. Now, in order to get the information from this multiple signals that are received through these multiple paths, there might be certain constructive interference taking place or destructive interference taking place. And of course, this would be a random phenomenon. And this is what is known as multipath fading effect. Now, definitely in RF communication, it suffers from multipath fading effects. Now, also these RF signals that are being transmitted, they would be a potential source of electromagnetic interference to other RF signals. And for transmitting data, of course, the mobile operators need to purchase the license. That is, bandwidth needs to be purchased for transmitting the signals. Hence, license fees is required. Further, as I mentioned that in RF, we are broadcasting the data. And definitely we are using wireless communications. We as users are using wireless communications for transmitting high amount of confidential signals. Of course, we are using e-banking, e-health, and here the data needs to be highly secure. So because RF is broadcast in nature, right? So the security of RF communication technologies is a very critical concern. And therefore, if I'm transmitting, if there is a legitimate transmitter and there is a legitimate receiver, but there would be an eavesdropper who might try to interfere or intercept these confidential messages. Hence, we need to ensure security for communications. Now, how does optical wireless communication actually fit in this 5G communication technology? So typically, these optical wireless communications, the frequency range that we are talking of is of the order of hundreds of gigahertz. So typically above 300 gigahertz is the range of frequencies that we are talking about. And when we are talking about such high frequencies, then of course we would have a very high bandwidth available in optical wireless communications. And optical wireless communication do not pose any electromagnetic interference for the other signals. The reason being is that optical wireless communication, the data is transmitted in a highly confined environment. It's a line of sight type. It's a line of sight type of communication that is spatially confined. The beam divergence is very low, and therefore it also offers some inherent amount of security in the data transmission, which was not offered by the traditional RF communication. Further, this frequency range that we are talking about, above 300 gigahertz, is a license-free band. No bandwidth need not be purchased for this particular frequency. Now, as far as the security is concerned, I talked about 5 key features of 5G, and one of the key features is ultra reliable communication. That means security is also one of the key features that we are targeting for 5G. And till now, what we have been focusing on was some cryptographic techniques which would ensure security at the higher levels of the OSI model, right? So what if we try to provide security at the physical layer itself of the OSI model, rather than relying completely on the cryptographic methods? So this type of security, this type of ensuring security at the physical layer of the communication OSI model is what is known as physical layer security. And this physical layer security is particularly important as far as 5G scenarios are concerned. The reason being is that, like, nowadays we are focusing on cryptographic techniques. So if the data is to be transmitted from a transmitter to a legitimate receiver, and the eavesdropper is trying to intercept this confidential message, then in the present day world, the eavesdroppers can have very high amount of computational capabilities to decode these cryptographic techniques. So physical layer security ensures that the secure transmission that is being conducted is independent of this amount of computational capability. Further, as far as the 5G scenario is concerned, we are focusing on a large amount of heterogeneous network. So the devices, there would be huge amount of devices in this 5G network. It would be an ultra dense network. There would be IoT of the Internet of Things, and there would be huge amount of data transmission. So typically, there would be devices getting connected or disconnected to the network. So it would be a very heterogeneous kind of a network. And in this heterogeneous network, it would be very difficult to maintain cryptographic key transmission. The handling and management of this cryptographic keys would be very difficult. The redistribution of these cryptographic keys would be very difficult. And hence, particularly for 5G scenarios, physical layer security is very useful. And as I mentioned that optical wireless communications are inherently secure, therefore, optical wireless communication is highly relevant for providing physical layer security in 5G communication scenarios. Now, for us as electronics engineers, IEEE is a very IEEE is a very reverent body, right? So the importance of optical wireless communications in 5G is also being emphasized by IEEE through their various call for research papers, conferences, workshops. One very relevant workshop which is going to be organized by IEEE World Forum on 5G is workshop on optical wireless communication for 5G that is going to be held in September this year. It would be a virtual event. So this slide also emphasizes that even IEEE has recognized the role of optical wireless communication in 5G scenarios. Now, we have been talking about optical wireless communications. So, what exactly is optical wireless communication? Let us try to have a brief overview of this. So, in optical wireless communication, we are focusing on the transmission of data from the transmitter to the receiver through the use of an optical carrier in an unguided medium. Now, the optical carriers would typically be in the infrared range of electromagnetic spectrum. So infrared range, we all know, is beyond from 700, around 700 nanometers to let's say up to 1 millimeter. Visible range, the optical carrier could also be in the visible range. It would be 400 to 700 nanometers. And typically this is what is known as visible light communication. And it could be in the ultraviolet range of electromagnetic spectrum. So ultraviolet range would be from 10 nanometers to around 400 nanometers. So similar to the optical fiber communication, in optical wireless communication also at the transmitter, we will be using either lasers or light emitting diodes for transmission. And at the receiver, we would be using a photo detector to receive the signal. However, the prime difference between optical wireless communication and an optical fiber communication is the physical medium. So in optical fiber communication, the data is actually transmitted through an optical fiber. So optical fiber is another form of a waveguide. But in optical wireless communication, the data transmission is through an unguided medium. Right. Now, based on the length of the transmission link, what we have is different categories of optical wireless communication. So typically these 5 are the main categories of optical wireless communication. They are ultra short range of communication, which is chip to chip communication in a multi-stack chip environment. Then there could be the short range optical wireless communication, which is examples are wireless body area networks or wireless personal area networks. Even underwater optical wireless communication fall in this particular range of short range optical wireless communication. Then we have medium range optical wireless communications. Examples could be your visible light communications in local area networks. And then we have long range optical wireless communications, typically communication between 2 buildings in a campus or within a city. And then there are these ultra long range optical wireless communications. So examples include your inter-satellite links or deep space links. So in the next few slides of this talk, I would be mainly focusing on this 4th category of optical wireless communication, or the long range optical wireless communication, which is an outdoor optical wireless communication for terrestrial links. And that is what is known as free space optical communication. So This slide actually compares this free space optical communication with the traditional RF communications. As we have already seen that this FSO communication is one of the categories of optical wireless communication. So it derives all the advantages of free space optical communications as well. So in the previous slides, I had mentioned about the limitations of RF communications, specifically in terms of the scarcity of the spectrum, congestion in the spectrum, and license fees being needed for the purchasing the spectrum, and multipath feeding effects, electromagnetic interference. So all these limitations of RF communications are actually mitigated in FSO communication systems, as FSO communication systems are easily deployable. They offer very high bandwidth and very high data rates up to 10 Gbps and even more. And of course, since the frequency range that we are targeting is of the order of gigahertz, therefore this is a license free band. And FSO communications are inherently secure because of the spatial confinement and the narrow beam divergence that is offered for the laser beams. Now, one of the prime applications of using free space optical communication is the last mile problem. So the last mile link refers to the data transmission being data access being provided to we as end users in our rooms. So last mile refers to the link that is provided to the user within our home environment. So typically these are the commonly used technologies for providing access of internet within our homes. There are these DSL lines, RF cables, fiber to the home, satellite links, but they have these limitations. For example, DSL offers limited bandwidth. The limitations of RF we have already seen. The twisted cables, they offer low data rates. Of course, fiber to the home offers very high data rate, but it is very expensive, and also the maintenance of optical fibers is very high. And of course, satellite links are quite expensive. So FSO can provide a cheap solution to the last mile problem. There are several other applications of free space optical communication systems. So typically in a campus environment, communication between two buildings in a local area network by providing very high data speeds can be done by free space optical communication systems. Other important application is during disaster management. So particularly in the 9/11 terror attacks in New York City, when the traditional communication lines were disrupted, FSO links were immediately established because the deployment of FSO communication links is relatively quite easy, and it can be deployed within a very short span of time. So for critical financial applications, these links were used so that there were no heavy losses. Further, in television broadcasting as well, we can use free space optical communication where the requirement of throughput is very critical. So during the FIFA World Cup, 2010 FIFA World Cup football transmission, FSO links were used. And finally, in backhaul requirements, so typically for 5G, we would require a backhaul link that could ensure very high data rates that are supported by 5G. Very high capacity links that are required for 5G. In 5G, we have ultra dense networks. The size of the cells is of the order of picocells, right? So we need to find out certain solutions which could provide cost-effective backhaul. So definitely there are a number of wireless backhaul techniques also available, and there is no unique way for providing backhaul in 5G. But because of the several advantages of FSO, of its providing ultra high data rates and relatively ease of deployment and low rate of cost of equipment, we can definitely use FSO as a backhaul technique in 5G scenarios. Now, let us now have a brief overview of the transmitter and the receivers that are used in free space optical communication systems. So this FSO transmitter is very similar to the fundamental communication systems block diagram transmitter that you have seen. So we have an information source that would be generating the data, and then it would be followed by a source encoder which would try to encode this data into as less number of bits as possible. Then we have a modulator, and this modulator will be this case, and message signal that is generated here will be modulated using a high frequency optical carrier. This optical carrier can definitely be from either in the ultraviolet range, infrared range, or in the visible range. And then before transmitting this data to modulated signal through the channel, we use an optical amplifier to increase its power. And finally, there is this beam forming optics that is required to focus the signal across the channel. Then we have an FSO receiver. So typically in this slide, what we are is a coherent receiver. So we know that a coherent communication system is that communication system where at the receiver side we would require a local oscillator which would generate same frequency and phase as compared as used on the transmitter side. So similar is the scenario in FSO receivers as well. So we'll receive the optical signal here. It would be collected by the optical telescope, and there would be an optical band pass filter to remove the out of band noise and focus entirely on the desired signal. And then we use an optical local oscillator here. So now the difference between the traditional communication systems coherent definition is that this particular optical local oscillator could have the same frequency and phase as the transmitted optical signal oscillator, or it could have even different frequency and phase. So correspondingly, the FSO receivers are characterized into homodyne or heterodyne FSO receivers. And then we have a photodetector which would convert this optical signal into a proportionate electrical current. And then we have these signal processing operations. We have an amplifier, and then in the receiver circuit, there would be some thermal noise generated. And then there would be a detector which would, based on the received signal, determine whether a bit 1 was transmitted or a bit 0 was transmitted. Now we also have FSO receivers which are non-coherent in nature. That is, in these FSO receivers, we do not require a local optical carrier to be generated. And therefore, these FSO receivers are quite simple to implement. However, there would be, in communication, definitely there are trade-offs involved. So although here we have the benefit of using a low cost and a simple implementation of an FSO receiver, but definitely the performance of a non-coherent receiver is poorer compared to coherent receivers. That is, the BER performance of a coherent receiver will be better compared to the BER performance of the non-coherent receiver. Now, let us now focus on what are the different losses that are introduced in an FSO communication channel. So typically, an optical signal is affected by these many factors when the data is transmitted through an FSO channel. So there are these geometric loss, misalignment loss, atmospheric turbulence, and these background radiations. So the geometric loss occurs due to the divergence of the beam. So definitely when the data is being transmitted through an optical signal from the transmitter to the receiver, it won't have the same, the beam would definitely diverge. This is very much relevant because when you use a torch light, so it is not a very narrow beam, it diverges as the distance increases. So definitely in optical scenarios as well, we have a divergence of the beam which results into a geometric loss. Then what we have is a misalignment loss. So this misalignment loss occurs due to thermal expansion. So typically these FSO receivers are placed on the top of high-rise buildings. So because of there could be thermal expansion in the building, there could be mild earthquakes, or there could be some building vibrations which might result in the misorientation between the transmitter and the receiver, which results into this misalignment losses. So there are two types. So these misalignment losses are commonly known as pointing errors. And there are two types of pointing errors. One is categorized into Boresight error, and the other is known as a jitter error. So Boresight error can be explained with the help of this particular diagram. So from the transmitter, we are having this beam footprint that is coming at the receiver, and there is this receiver. I have assumed that this receiver has a circular aperture. So there is the center of this receiver and there is the center of this beam that has been transmitted from the transmitter. So this fixed distance between the center of this receiver and the center of this beam is what is known as bore-side pointing error. Now, the second type of error, so this bore-side pointing error typically occurs because of the thermal expansion in the building. And then we have this jitter pointing error, which is defined as the random offset between the beam center and the detector plane. So typically in jitter pointing error, what happens is that because of the building sway and the building vibration, the plane of the detector itself shifts, resulting into the jitter pointing error. Now, when we are transmitting data through the atmosphere and FSO communication system, definitely this optical signal will interact with the suspended particles that are present in the atmosphere. These are known as aerosols, and this would result in what is known as an atmospheric loss. And it manifests itself into these three phenomena, which are atmospheric attenuation, absorption, and scattering. So this atmospheric attenuation is typically dominated by the presence of fog. So for FSO communication, definitely we need some line of sight communication and visibility must be maximum. However, in the presence of fog, there would be a huge amount of attenuation as is revealed by this data. So when the fog intensity of fog is very heavy, we can have attenuation as high as 173 dB per kilometer. Now, let us try to understand another loss that is introduced in the FSO communication channel, which is due to atmospheric turbulence. Now, let us try to understand the physics behind this atmospheric turbulence. So, we know that when the solar light, solar radiation reaches the surface of the Earth, the temperature near the surface of the Earth is relatively higher compared to the temperature in the upper layers of the atmosphere. So definitely the upper layers of the atmosphere are cooler compared to the lower layers of the atmosphere, right? So when this warm air, which is near the surface of the Earth, it becomes less dense and rises and mixes with the cooler air. And when such phenomenon occurs, what we have is some inhomogeneities are generated in the atmosphere in this particular manner. So these inhomogeneities are manifested in the form of either these small cells or these large cells. These are what are known as small scale eddies or large scale eddies. So these eddies or cells are nothing but different prisms of different sizes and different index of refraction. So whenever the optical signal is transmitted through an FSO channel, it will encounter these different prisms. And when the light gets refracted through this, it results into the phenomenon which is known as atmospheric turbulence. And definitely this atmospheric turbulence is a random phenomenon because these cells would be randomly generated. And in order to characterize the atmospheric turbulence, we have a parameter which is known as the scintillation index. So this scintillation index, also known as the Retov variance, which is given, this formula simplifies into this particular expression. It is actually the ratio of this expectation to this expectation. So definitely this I represents the atmospheric, this intensity of the incident light. So this would be a random variable. So this defines the atmospheric turbulence. So this moment which we are considering is a second order moment, and this moment which we are considering is the square of the first order moment of this atmospheric turbulence. Hence, it is a ratio of two moments, right? So it simplifies in literature. It has been found that this Retov variance of the scintillation index is related to this particular expression, which depends on this parameter, which is Cn square. This Cn squared is related to the index of refraction of these different prisms that we have observed. Then this K is the wave number. It is related to the wavelength of the light that we are, optical carrier that we are using, and L is the link length. So this number characterizes the strength of the atmospheric turbulence. So typically we have weak turbulence, moderate turbulence, and strong turbulence. When this scintillation index is less than 1, we say that we have a weak turbulence. When the scintillation index is around 1, we say that we have moderate turbulence. And when the scintillation index is greater than 1, we say that we have a strong turbulence scenario. Now, since this atmospheric turbulence is characterized by a random variable, therefore, in order to model this FSO channel, each of these turbulence scenarios are modeled by are statistically characterized. Of course, you might have heard about Rayleigh fading, Raishian fading, Nakagami fading in your traditional wireless communication courses. In FSO communication systems, we have different channel model, different turbulence scenarios, and correspondingly, different probability density functions are used to statistically characterize these turbulence environments. So for weak turbulence scenario, it is particularly modeled by a log normal distribution. For moderate turbulence scenario, we use a gamma-gamma distribution. And for strong turbulence scenarios, we typically use negative exponential distribution. However, in literature, the most popular model to FSO channel model to model all these different turbulence scenarios is what is known as a gamma-gamma turbulence model. So this gamma-gamma turbulence model has a probability density function which is expressed in terms of this modified Bessel function. So this K function is a modified Bessel function of order alpha minus beta, and it's a second order modified Bessel function. So we are all aware from our basic analog communication course about the Bessel function, because this Bessel function, if you could recall, the Bessel J function was used to characterize the frequency domain representation of an FM modulated signal. In FSO communication, for modeling the FSO channel, we use another form of this Bessel function, which is a modified Bessel function of second kind and order alpha minus beta, where these alpha minus beta parameters are the small scale eddies and the large scale eddies. And the formula for obtaining these alpha and beta parameters is related to the scintillation index that we have discussed earlier. Now, here there is a table which characterizes the different values of alpha and beta for weak, moderate, and strong turbulence scenarios. Now, as we mentioned in this particular slide, that for weak turbulence, this scintillation index should be less than 1. So as we can see, the scintillation index for a typical scenario in weak turbulence is 0.2, and correspondingly the values of alpha and beta are obtained. Similarly, for moderate turbulence, we observe that it should be around 1. So for moderate, a typical value is around 1.6, and corresponding values of alpha and beta are obtained using these relations. And again, for strong turbulence, we have observed that this scintillation index should be greater than 1. So definitely in a practical scenario, it is values turning out to be 3.5, and correspondingly the values of alpha and beta are obtained, right? So in literature, definitely there are other models as well to model this FSO communication system. So it is again an open field of research. In this particular case, we have considered only the effects of atmospheric turbulence to model the FSO channel. But we also discussed that the pointing errors result into loss of information. It severely deteriorates the performance of an FSO communication channel. So the model incorporating the effects of atmospheric turbulence as well as pointing errors is given by this, where this is the PDF of the instantaneous SNR that is received at the receiver in an FSO communication signal. And this particular function is what is known as a major G function. This major G function has very much relevance in FSO communication systems, and it can be expressed in terms of well-known functions as well, in terms of hypergeometric functions. So this is a well-known, well-studied function, and it can be implemented in MATLAB as well as in Mathematica software. And these AB parameters are nothing but our alpha and beta parameters, and this zeta square parameter, it characterizes the effect of the pointing errors. So from my side, this was a brief introduction of what is the relevance of optical wireless communication in 5G scenarios, And also my target was to motivate you towards the free space optical communication systems. What are its advantages? What is the motivation behind using it? What are its applications? And some physical phenomena that are related to the free space optical communication channels. Now, of course, this is simply a motivation, and definitely the details. I mean, FSO communication would be an entire course in itself. And of course, considering the fact that we are moving towards 5G and beyond communications, the role of optical wireless communication would significantly increase, and definitely more new research will keep on coming, and this area will get on updated. So this was simply a brief introduction to this particular field of research, and I would be open to your questions. And if you have any suggestions or any queries, definitely you can, of course, discuss with me here, as well as you may contact me on my email ID, which is ashishmathur@iitj.ac.in. So that's all from my side, and we are open to discussion if you have any queries. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Any queries from the participant side?
Hello, sir. Hello.
What's your phone, Thoka?
Yeah, hello.
Hello, sir. Good morning. Myself, Anjana Shukla. I have one question. That
Yes.
is, what is the difference between OWC and FSO? When we are searching for wireless optical communication, that
Right.
is techniques, there are two types. Basically, I heard for two techniques, that is OWC and FSO. So what is the difference between these two?
So FSO is one of the categories of optical wireless communication. So optical wireless communication is a very broader term,
Yes, sir.
and FSO is a very specific category of OWC. So as I had mentioned about the 5 different categories of optical wireless communication. So this
Yes,
particular
sir.
4th category, which is related
Yes,
to
sir.
long range terrestrial optical wireless communication links, is what is
Yes, yes.
communication.
Okay, sir. Okay, okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Sir, at what frequency? One more question.
Yeah.
At what frequency? At what frequency we are able to simulate these OWC?
So typically, I mean, the range of frequency for OWC, as I mentioned, is of the order of gigahertz. So, I mean, definitely it would depend upon the optical carriers that we are using. So typically,
Okay.
if we are focusing on IR range, so the
Yes, sir.
wavelength we are focusing is on, so most commonly used wavelengths for
That is 1550
15,
nanometer.
yeah, 1550 nanometer.
Okay.
Right. So correspondingly, the frequency would be of the order of gigahertz. So 3 into
Okay,
10 power 8 divided by this wavelength. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Sir, FSO belongs to which category out of the 5?
So this is the 4th category.
FSO belongs to which category?
Yeah, it's the 4th category.
FSO also
yeah,
belongs with the 4th category.
In the long range communication. So long range communication for terrestrial links is what is known as free space optical communication.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
Any more questions from the participant side? Okay, no questions. Then we are going to conclude our session here. And on behalf of TechUp 3 RGPV, I would like to convey my sincere thanks to Honorable VC sir,
Hello.
the coordinator sir.
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Ma'am, sir has defined a term known as backhauling. I want
Yes.
to know what do you mean? What does it mean, sir? I'm Nagendra Singh from SAM Group of Institutions.
Okay. So backhauling means that we are providing data access from the core network to the end users. So our core network, if we consider a human body, our core network is basically our spinal cord, and the uh, uh, end user would be our human limbs or hands or fingers. So typically, whatever links are used to provide this data from the core network to the end users is what is known as a backhaul network.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, this is Santosh Onkar from SITI Vidisha.
Okay.
Sir, how can we reduce the latency? Sir, you told that latency is very important parameter. In
Yes.
RF communication, latency is around 25 milliseconds.
Right, right, right.
So, sir, in the optical fiber communication, wireless communication,
Right,
how can
right.
we reduce the latency, sir?
So in order to reduce the latency, one typical feature is to have a very high data rates. So if we are focusing on very high data rates, then definitely the amount of time required would be relatively less. So that's why we are targeting on a very high frequency range. So typically of the order of gigahertz. So of course, specifically for 5G, we are focused on this millimeter wave range of frequencies, where the wavelength would be order of the millimeters, and the range of frequencies would be from 30 to around 300 gigahertz. For 5G and beyond communication, again, we are going for more higher range of frequencies. So the use of this particular high range frequencies inherently implies a reduce in the latency.
Sir, I have one more question, sir.
Right.
Sir, in optical fiber communication, we have a practical physical medium, that is optical fiber. ठीक है?
Right.
Optical fiber communication, wireless communication, we use open space medium.
Definitely. Definitely.
ठीक है, sir.
Yes.
So there is a many reasons to lose our signals. So like atmospheric losses and many things losses.
Right. Definitely.
So sir, how can we reduce all these losses, and what are the ways, what are the future scopes?
Yeah, definitely. So it's a good question. So in order to reduce these losses, what we have is we try to go for multi-hop communication in FSO, and we also try to involve MIMO FSO in order to improve the reliability of data transmission. So if the signal gets multiple paths, we are actually trying to have multiple receivers on the receiver side as well. So we kind of have a diversity of the receivers. So by ensuring this by using these MIMO techniques for FSO, and by using multiple hops, like there would be different repeater stations in between for a very long link. So these could be used.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Any more queries? Please ask if you have any queries.
Hello.
Yes.
Sudhanshu Kapoor this side. Sir, my question is, what are the challenges nowadays optical wireless communication facing? Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, what are the challenges optical wireless communication is facing nowadays?
So the typical challenges would be one would be the challenges that are faced in the FSO channel. So that would be these pointing errors, misalignment losses, geometric losses, atmospheric effects that I have talked about. Then
Okay.
in FSO, we require a line of sight communication. So typically, for any optical wireless communication, let's say we are focusing on 5G and beyond communication, and one application would be to provide data within the home, within a home, right, where you are sitting. And that would be one proposed technique is using visible light. That is, if you are a user and you would be having your mobile, then the light bulbs and the LED arrays can be used to provide data access to you.
Okay.
Now, definitely for these optical wireless communication, if there is no light or if there is a power cut, then definitely you are having loss of data. Further, if you have it is a line of sight communication. So definitely between the transmitter and the receiver, if you have a thick wall coming in, right, then definitely there would be data loss. So these are some of the challenges which has got the attention of the researchers worldwide as well. So and this is still an open area of research. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Any more queries? Please ask, otherwise we'll conclude the session here. Okay, no more queries, so I'm concluding the session here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, Pushpaji, can I leave? Okay. Thank you. Thank you all.
I would like to convey my sincere thanks to Honorable VC Sir, Coordinator Sir, and Director of IGS ITS, Dr. Rakesh Saxena Sir, for joining us today for this session. And I would like to convey my thanks to Dr. Ashish Mathur Sir for such informative session today. And we hope to have you in future also for this type of such informative sessions from you. And I would like to thank all the participants who always motivated us to conduct such session for them. And thanks for joining us today's session. Ashish Mathur, sir.
Yeah, I'm here. Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for the session that we have today.
Thank you for providing me this opportunity. Definitely, I'm very
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. If all the participants are having any queries and any suggestions, just you can fill that in feedback form so that we'll give a revert you back. If you need any such type of sessions from our side, just write it in feedback form so that we'll conduct the sessions for you. Thank you all for joining us today.
Hello.
Yes.
थैंक यू पुष्पा मैडम, वेरी इंफॉर्मेटिव सेशन आपने बताया सभी लोगों के लिए। तो कहीं ना कहीं हम लोग ये देख सकते हैं कि आरजीपीवी चाहे स्टूडेंट हो चाहे फैकल्टी मेंबर्स हो, सभी के लिए इतना ध्यान रखता है कि वो इतने इंफॉर्मेटिव सेशन और नॉलेज से भरपूर रहते हैं। तो कहीं ना कहीं हम लोगों को बेनिफिट मिलता है डायरेक्टली और इनडायरेक्ट वे। तो थैंक यू ऑल जो उन्होंने इतना अच्छा सेशन किया। तो थैंक यू आरजीपीवी चौबे सर and all team. So thank you so much, madam.
Thank you so much, sir. Any questions or queries? Okay, so here I am going to end the session, and you hope you all get the feedback form